Oh, we'll call this meeting to order. Everybody here and present? If you're not here, raise your hand. Okay, we're going to start with the approval of the minutes. And do we have the minutes here, or where are they?
Oh, they were attached.
Attached to the email.
Email.
Are there any questions on the minutes?
I have a question on email. I have not been getting emails. So who do I give my email address to? Yeah, I will do that before I leave. I was hacked a few months ago. I had to change my email address.
Okay.
I will give you the new one.
Okay.
Minutes.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Got a motion? I didn't hear who was on the line.
This is Rene Molina with the City of Douglas.
Okay. One of them, Remy. The other one's here, right?
The good-looking one is here. The
Okay. All right. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Move on to number 2, the roundtable. And what we talked about, Sharon and I talked about this, is we all probably came here with some idea of what we're going to do or some idea of our expectations of this. And I assume that's what this is all about. And we thought maybe it would be good for each of you, rather than be directed by the chair, just tell us we'll kind of go down the line, and if you don't want to say anything, that's okay too, but what your expectations were of what you were going to do here and what you'd like to see outcome from this, okay?
And if I could just say your name before you speak for the recording so that we know who's here and who's speaking. And I'm just going to write your key points up here.
Oh, all right. Well, this is Pablo from the City of Benson. I don't necessarily have any preconceived notions here. I just want to make sure that we get the job done and done properly. So that's me.
Rachel Grace, City of Sierra Vista. Same. I just think we're here to examine and discuss the boundaries to see if they need to be changed or stay the same, and just looking forward to the discussion.
I'm Elizabeth Bernstein, City of Bisbee. I understand our role to be advisory, so that it's for us as an advisory board to give our input, but also to facilitate the public meeting so that there will be broader public input into what we're doing. But we are advisory. We're not going to, we're not the ones who put the final stamp of approval on whatever it is that we come up with or whatever it is public comments on. Our role is to assist the Board of Supervisors who are going to make the final decision.
I'm Yvonne Mayer. This is the first meeting that I've attended, so I have a bit to learn. I understand that we need to make the district as open as possible population-wise, and we need to have clear delineation between the districts. And so I'm going to learn a lot, and I'm looking forward to doing this.
Okay. Molina, number 1 was to call you.
Yeah, Frank Molina from Douglas for District 2, and again, I didn't have any idea of what we were going to do until I sat down and looked at the information given to us, and it's real simple to me. It's equal representation across the board, and hopefully that's what we accomplish. And when I looked at it, and I thought to myself, okay, the population dropped, so to me it didn't seem like, it seemed like a no-brainer that nothing would really need to change unless there was a big drastic drop in one place. And
Tim Bolvey from Wilcox, council member. Kind of the same thing, no preconceived notions of any major changes other than just trying to voting law, and so maybe some minor adjustments may be needed, especially with the district. provide, and then just kind of learning as part of the process. Okay, Cheryl.
Cheryl Glenn, I'm from Arizona, District 3, and I had no preconceived ideas either. I am learning, and it's very interesting what we're doing here, but I just stay balanced.
Okay, Mr. Molina and Douglas.
Yeah, this is Rene Molina at District 2. Again, just I'm learning as we go. You know, I'm new to this, so I'm just more going along for the educational purpose of it.
And we have Cornelia Munoz. She's also a member.
Who do we have there now?
Cornelia Munoz?
Cornelia.
Okay, Cornelia, also in Douglas?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Can you speak? Would you like to share with us your thoughts about what you expected from this group or what you expected to do? Can she hear me? I don't think so.
Part that's not clear.
Something went awry.
She must have heard you when you first said her name, because she's
Yeah. Do they get their connection from here or do they get it from there?
She says there seems to be a problem with her microphone.
Okay, but we did hear her once.
Yeah, we heard you once, Cornelia.
Would somebody change microphones with her?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. we
Yes.
can. Now we can.
At least she hears us.
Okay. We're going to have someone give her a call and try to offer some assistance.
Okay.
We'll come back to you, Cornelia.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We honestly hear you now.
Okay. I'm Cornelia Munoz from District 2, and like Mr. Molina stated, I had no idea what this was about till I read all the materials. And I agree, equal representation throughout the county, and I'm really excited to be able to serve with you guys. Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. Is there anyone else from there? Okay, well, I guess we've completed everybody here. Essentially, I had expressed at the meeting the last time of basically what my expectations were, so that's already been done, and Sharon and I have discussed those. So, Sharon, you want to summarize kind of what you see from the group here, what you feel like is?
So I think, from what I hear, I think my next presentation will lead right into it because it'll set some of those rules and guidelines and process for how we'll go forward. We have a few members who weren't here yesterday, so, or who weren't here last week, and so, or 2 weeks ago. So this will be a good refresh for those who were here, and then maybe some new information, or I can answer any questions that you have about the process. But I think it's great what you're all talking about. I think we can accomplish all these things, working together to get the discussion of boundaries and equal representation. And I know we will learn a lot. There's a lot to learn. So.
Okay, well, this takes us right into your presentation then, Sharon, what the staff recommendations are and so on.
Yes. Bring up my presentation.
By the way, we've been joined by the inimitable.
Yes.
Traffic, who knew?
Well, is your name, first name Traffic? Oh, no.
No, I go by a lot of names.
Okay.
3 deer and a javelina, they just slow everything down.
So can everybody see the presentation, especially the 2 members we have online? There's not a no. Okay. We're a little crowded in here, so I'm just getting myself together.
Get yourself in.
Get myself together. Okay. So, what is redistricting? It's conducted every 10 years, as we talked about. District boundaries for federal, state, and local elected official offices are redrawn to reflect the new population data after the census. We talked last time about the redistricting principles or guidelines that the board approved, and primarily ensuring equal representation, one person, one vote, and that the lines are compact and contiguous geographically, as well as maintaining the integrity of cities, communities of interest, etc., as best we can. And district lines are drawn, can shape a community's ability to elect the representative of their choice. So that's really at the heart of what we're doing here today, is to ensure communities can elect the representative of their choice. They have equal access to do that. Arizona electoral districts, we have House of Representatives, legislature, and then of course at the local level, the County Board of Supervisors, community college boards, and some cities have wards. I know Douglas has wards, Bisbee has wards, so they'll be doing those individually themselves at the city level. Our goal is to focus on the County Board of Supervisors, community college governing boards, and the Justice of the Peace, with a caveat that I'll get into later. Who's responsible? The county, as I just said, supervisor districts, Justice of the Peace, and community college. And I referenced the statute that's located. Cities do their, and special districts do their own. And most have an internal committee comprised of staff, administration, the elections department, the recorder's office, as well as then an advisory group. So how do we come up with it? We begin with our ideal population in a district based on the total population from the census plus the number of districts is the ideal population. Any amount greater or less than that is called the deviation. And we do allow for some deviation, just can't be at or below 10%. And to give you an example of that, here's for the Board of Supervisors, 3 districts, our ideal population, upper and lower ranges. So we shouldn't, in any district, exceed 43,906, and we shouldn't go below 39,725, based on the 2020 census. Our current lines that we have for the Board of Supervisors fall within that upper and lower. So technically, we don't have to change based on population. However, if there is a community of interest that's been identified, such as Rachel brought up and we have on our agenda to discuss Sierra Vista, then any changes we make, we need to keep those upper and lowers in mind. College has 5 districts, so their upper and lowers are different, and they're given there. Again, their lines do not need to be changed based on population. They fall within that upper and lower. And the Justice of the Peace is based on productivity credits set in statute. That's 1,200 credits, and that's a formula they derive based on caseload. And so right now, JP5 in Sierra Vista is our largest, our most active JP court, and they are at 990, I think, something, productivity credits. I think that might be 1,200, but I think, let me check my numbers. It currently has 820. In 2018, they had 998.
Question, you're mentioning JP districts. Name the JP so we kind of know where they are, if you would. Who's there now?
Sure. So I'll start with JP1 is Poppy. Janice Poppy. I was trying to think of his first name. Janice Poppy. JP2 is, I'm going to let Rich take this one. He knows them by the top of his head. He's the
I do know JP2 is, all right, right, now I gotta remember, it's 2 and 3. JP2 is Benson.
Douglas.
Douglas? I thought it was 3. See, I know 5.
We know the 5 names, we don't know.
Right.
Well, the reason I asked
So
is
JP2 is Douglas? Okay, so JP2 is Douglas, and that's Alma Villadosla. JP3, Benson, okay, and that's Bruce Staggs. And then JP4 is Wilcox, and then is Trevor Ward. And then the JP5 is Sierra Vista area, and that is Kenneth Kerfman. And JP6, and that's Bowie.
Ruben.
He's gonna kill me.
Ruben
Yes.
okay, does this help? Because that way you know who you voted for or who you didn't vote for, okay?
Please, Ruben, Ruben, don't get mad at me, Ruben.
I hear your phone ringing now.
I know.
I
You don't know.
I can't remember his last name.
So again, based on productivity credits, it's set in statute that you're mandated to change when you exceed that 1,200 threshold. We have not, so we are not mandated to change any of the JP lines at this time. Pitfalls to avoid. Gerrymandering. The practice of manipulating the boundaries of an electoral constituency to favor one political party or class. And this is very easy to do unintentionally because you're just going along in the map and you're trying to make the population work, and then you stand back and look at it and you're like, whoa, that looks funny. So keep it in mind because, like I said, it's very easy to do unintentionally, but it is something that will land us in court as a disputed map. And these are some examples of gerrymandering. They're not compact, they're not contiguous. Another pitfall is packing and cracking. Concentrating one party's supporters into districts that they will win by overwhelming margins. Or cracking, dividing a party's supporters among multiple districts so that they fall short of a majority in each district. Again, something that's very easy to do, although unintentional, I'm sure.
It has been done.
And has been done.
And not necessarily unintentional.
Well, I'm going to give you all the benefit of the doubt. That's going to be, if we fall into that trap, it's unintentional.
Well, for example, let's take our congressional district. No matter what Cochise County does, the east side of Tucson determines the election.
Well,
But that's not our purview.
No, but the point is, that's what takes place.
Mm-hmm. It's an example.
So I have a question. How in the world does the person even know, where all the Democrats live and where all the Republicans live? I mean, unless you have some kind of political map drawn out, that says, well, here's all the Republicans stretched over here and all the Democrats seem like this area here or whatever.
We do have the voter registration population data from the recorder's office, so we can base it on how each voter registered and by what party. We can pull that and add that into our maps.
So it's probably a good idea if we don't. So we don't see it and have a notion to.
you're not supposed to look at that, correct? But you tend to know where the parties lie. Like Douglas is different than Sierra Vista kind of stuff. But
Another pitfall is not considering race. And this is primarily related to the Voting Rights Act. It's a necessary consideration in order to comply with that Voting Rights Act so that we are not polarizing any particular group. And it's always a part of the redistricting process. We need to be aware of it and openly discuss it as a consideration. Don't be afraid of it. Lack of community involvement. So that's another pitfall, and we're trying to avoid that one by having a redistricting advisory commission. Your input is part of that. We will also be having public hearings on the maps that you choose to move to a public hearing so that individual voters can see if they're changing that, if we change district lines, how they're impacted, and it's not a surprise. And then Board of Supervisors would then have that information from the public hearing as part of their final consideration. We talked last time about voting precincts, and there were a lot of questions about why do we have them since we have voting centers now. So voting precincts, what are they? They're the basic geographical areas for organizing and administering elections. So we break up an area into a precinct, we identify it, and within that precinct, we know how to lay out the ballots, how to rotate candidate names on ballots, where to establish polling places, and reporting election results and voter registration statistics. In addition, each election, a political party has a precinct committee man. The Board of Supervisors has already approved the precincts, I believe, correct, Lisa, for the next election?
Yes.
So if we were to change precinct lines, we would have to bring those back to the board for approval, but again, it's not something we're mandated to do based on any population changes.
Wait, that's each year before the general election. Wait, does that, today is October 1st. Are we saying the Board of Supervisors this year has now established precincts?
They already have, but if we change lines and we cross districts, because each precinct contains one Board of Supervisor, one college, and one JP district. If we were to shift everything around, that now maybe a precinct has been cut in half between two Boards of Supervisors, now we have to redraw that precinct line.
So when did they last approve precincts?
August?
Well, they did in the last cycle, and because we've been delayed and we had an extension because of this, so they haven't yet for this one.
They have not yet?
No.
It was vote centers. That's what I'm getting. So precinct size is based on number.
Run that through again.
Okay.
So where does it stand right now?
They haven't, I stand corrected, they have not approved the precincts for the next elections. But when we draw our lines final, the redistricting maps, they will then be approving the precinct lines as well.
Now, on that subject, weren't you going to share with us some things about these precincts?
Oh, she's covered everything.
Was that covering? You already covered it?
Unless there's other questions, she's done a very good job of just describing what a precinct is. Wave.
Thank you. So again, precincts cannot cross congressional, legislative, or Board of Supervisor district boundaries. We can't split a precinct between two board members. If we do that, we have to redraw the precinct line. So right now, as our current lines stand, each precinct contains one Board of Supervisor, one college governing board member, and one JP district. And that works very nicely. The precinct size is based on number of registered voters, not the census population, and so we have compared. We do that because we want to make sure if we didn't have. We currently have vote centers where you can go vote at any location. You don't have to vote at your precinct voting center. But if we didn't have that, we wouldn't want long lines at the precinct voting center.
Let me ask a question. This may not relate to this. How many people in the county do you think understand that they can go any place and vote?
I don't know. I would have to ask Lisa. I think we get a lot of questions on election night about where they can go vote.
Not so many. Most people know that. We've done that since 2015, and then overwhelmingly about 80% of our voters vote early in person or by mail. So we get, that's in this county. Statewide, it's closer to 90. So we don't really get a lot of calls for that. People pretty much know that. Vote centers have been really popular, and they also enable people to vote so they don't vote out of precinct, because that's a huge issue. That was a Supreme Court case with Arizona, voting out of precinct. So vote centers allow you don't have that issue, so you can vote anywhere.
I I know you have a question. Go
I
ahead.
have a question about our timeline. It's a big question about our timeline. I mean, that relates to this.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so we talked about, last time, the first meeting, we talked some about the Arizona Redistricting Commission that's drawing the congressional lines and the legislative lines. But we didn't say how directly that impacted what we're doing here. I'm seeing here now that we cannot, when we draw our precincts, we cannot cross the congressional or legislative lines. But we will not know the congressional or legislative lines until December or January. And I know that the preliminary maps that the state commission has put out are very preliminary and will probably change. But they do have Cochise County split for both the congressional and the legislative districts. It may not end up that way. Maybe all of Cochise County will be in one congressional district, one legislative district. But there's still a chance we're gonna have a line somewhere. And so I really don't understand, I'm troubled by doing this whole process to possibly find out later that all our precincts, or some of our precincts, whatever, that we have to throw out what we've done and start all over again because we've drawn our precincts not knowing where the congressional or legislative lines are. We may end up crossing them, or they may end up splitting our precincts.
I understand where you're coming from, and it is cumbersome in that regard. I think we have to move forward with our precincts with the knowledge that we have, which is as the legislative and congressional boundaries currently stand. The Board of Supervisors can change those precinct lines at any given year, I suppose. So we could, help me out here, David, couldn't we just change them if we need to
It can be changed. I honestly don't think we're going to be split when the final maps are out for the congressional legislative, but I don't think it's a requirement that they have to be all within one precinct. Those three have to.
It just looks very nice.
So, and it's unfortunate everybody's doing the same process at the same time, at the same timeline. Census data was so late in coming out. So, of course, the IRC is not going to be the last ones done, but if you're finished ahead of them, they will have the tendency to look at what you've already done and say, okay, we'll take this precinct, not just the census tract. Because then you get back into the community of interest. The map that just came out, they had almost the same identical map 10 years ago, the first one that came out, and it was nothing like it when it was all finished. With the size of the districts, legislative districts could be like 240,000 people. I don't see them splitting. The congressional one's going to be over 800,000, I think. So I don't see it being a problem. We're in the middle of the state, it could be an issue, but I'm all in the fact that I'm on the line of let's get our job done first and then make them conform to us, as opposed to waiting around to conform to them.
They will be very last.
They're going to be the last ones
will not
because it's going to court. The IRC stuff will go to court.
Is there a hierarchy? Does the county or state override the counties? Is there a hierarchy?
Nothing I've ever seen. It's just we all have our own. It's the same work, but at different levels, and we all have.
But if one starts to conflict, somebody has to make a decision.
Yeah, it depends on where the confliction is. If it's a precinct, then the county has the authority to change it if it needs to. But
I mean, this is why the state legislature gave the counties a lot of extra time until next July.
For the Board of Supervisors. We do have JP races.
Right.
And,
if you did a JP races, there really wouldn't be a whole lot of push to get the plan done. Yeah. The supervisors just got elected, so they don't have to worry about their lines right away. But it just has to, we do have some races that they have to know where they're running. So it's the time crunch with other legislation made it even closer. It used to be first part of June, now it's first part of April. That the candidates have to turn the paperwork in to run for a district they may not even be in.
So you're saying the JP district is kind of the priority in terms of anybody needing to know?
They're the ones on the ballot, yeah. And I don't, other than maybe 5, I don't see the other ones really changing unless the statute states that when they hit 1,200 credits, you either split them in half or you alter the lines to the other JPs. to try to balance out the workload. It's very difficult to understand how many traffic tickets you're going to get in a year. That's why the credits go up and down a lot. But it's one of the largest JP courses in the state, and it's got a lot of work. So I think either one discussion, you split it, you move the lines to the other two JPs a bit, but if those people you move never get a traffic ticket, you can't get credits, so it's a guesswork.
But that, and we will focus on JPs at a future meeting,
Right.
but
We got to do the basis here.
this is the way, and I understand where you're coming from. It's not clean, it's not, and there's a lot of moving parts going at the same time, so it is very confusing. I think it's important for us just to focus on what we do control and not worry about the outside forces.
But this is a rule that a precinct cannot cross a congressional or legislative.
I haven't seen that rule.
Okay. But, and one other thing, we said we could change, that if necessary, the precincts could be changed later. But wouldn't changing the precincts later possibly also require then changing the supervisor district lines that have been drawn? Because they have to follow the precincts. So if the precincts have to be adjusted later.
Yeah, at that point, you would adjust them to the lines you already approved.
Yeah.
Is this not in the ARS? That they have is there a regulation on this?
On how to set the size of a precinct?
Yeah, I mean, in other words, we're talking about, is this just something somebody makes a decision about, or is this something that's part of law?
Well, it's part of law, and the counties make the final decision on the precincts.
The ARS 16-411, the board of supervisors are required to establish voting precincts.
Okay, and so that is that's what we're going by. I'm sorry. Okay, that's all.
You're buying donuts.
Prior to the general election. So they have to approve it prior to the general election. So if we set lines that don't match precincts, and or the legislature sets lines that don't match precincts, we have to go in and change the precincts.
And it's not uncommon to condense precincts as population drops, or split them out as had housing projects went in Benson. They'd have chopped those up and made other precincts. And it was like 30,000 homes are going to go in there 10 years ago. Never happened. But that doesn't happen on the 10-year mark. And so they have the flexibility, the county does, to handle that. But I'm sure that if they had to change the line, they would keep them in line with the other precincts you've already voted on.
Are we okay?
No.
That's clear as mud?
Yeah.
Clear as it's going to get.
I'm still wondering, okay, so the timeline. It seems like the justice of the peace precincts was a real priority, actually.
Well, they're the ones on the ballot. So.
Okay.
And we will. So precincts have many districts. This is just an example of precinct 24 in St. David. You see they have the supervisor district, community college, justice of the peace. And then they have multiple special districts. And that's just one precinct, just so you can have an understanding of how that comes to be for citizens. So I want to talk about the process and timeline. One thing, we kind of started down this path, and I think this is a way for us as staff to help you stay focused on moving forward each agenda, not becoming mired in one issue only, because we do have a quick turnaround here that we're trying to finish by December 1st. So this is how I envision this going forward. And this is based on our discussions from the previous meeting, some discussions I've had with Jerry, of how we can keep on track. So we had a brainstorming session last time and this time, where, for example, Rachel brought up the concerns for Sierra Vista. So we're taking that idea based on a community of interest concern. We put it on the agenda for today to be discussed. So if someone had another concern, you can raise it, but it won't be discussed. It would be put on an agenda for next time. That proposal, as we posted it for discussion today. We'll have that discussion, and the group will give direction as to how to proceed. Will we take a map with that change to a public hearing? Do we have other maps? We have one on here on the agenda to discuss, which is just minimal changes that staff saw to clean up some areas. And do you want to take that one to a public hearing? Do you want to take a map of no changes to a public hearing? So that's decisions or direction you can give us today. That will then allow us to prepare for those public hearings and properly put items on the agenda for those. And then after the public hearing, after you get that feedback, we can then vote on recommendations to give, on recommendations to give to the Board of Supervisors. And so the Board of Supervisors will have your recommendation as well as information from the public hearings to consider when they make their final decision. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Will there be more than one public hearing?
There are more than one public hearing. I'll skip ahead to that just so you can see. I'm proposing that we have public hearings in Benson or Wilcox with a streaming to the other location, similar to how the Independent Redistricting Commission has done their meetings. We could have a location in Benson or in Wilcox, and then our IT department would have the ability to go over through Teams. People could meet in Wilcox or Benson, whichever is the other site, and ask their questions or make their statements at the public hearing for the Redistricting Commission. So it would be streaming, it would be open, it would require only one meeting versus one at each location. That's a way to bring the timeline more condensed. So I'm proposing a public hearing in Benson and Wilcox. I've coordinated these based on their city council meeting dates so that we're not conflicting with city council meetings at each location. I have not reserved any locations yet because I want your approval first. Hopefully I won't run into a roadblock there.
What day? That'll be a Friday at 9 o'clock on the 19th of November?
That's our Redistricting Advisory Commission meeting for you to make your final recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. I'm recommending the 19th based on giving time for posting of the Board of Supervisor public hearing on the 30th, getting appropriate information to the board in advance. This gives us a little leeway.
Would we have any reason we need to be at the meeting on the 30th?
No, you don't have to, unless you wanted to make a comment to the board as part of the public hearing. But you put in the work, you might be interested in hearing what they decide. So that's a proposal. Like I said, one of the agenda items is to approve this timeline. That follows, when I conclude this presentation, I'll ask you to vote to approve this timeline. If you have changes to it, I'm not really sure I can accommodate too many changes. I really did. I was kind of hampered by the city councils. Everybody meets all over the place. And they're a second Thursday or a third Monday, or, so they really are very kind of locked in there a bit if we're going to do this in November.
Sharon, I think you mentioned that you wanted to seat 50 people at each meeting, or be able to seat 50. Is that a requirement?
That's a nice number, yeah. I think we just need to make sure we get a big enough location. I'm thinking I would reach out to the cities first for their, where they have their city council meetings, because they would have the appropriate accommodation.
So that would be on a Thursday, Monday, and a Tuesday at those different times. Now, is this group then anticipated to be here, or will we be streaming from someplace, or what?
I would ask that there be a quorum of this group at the public
What
hearing.
is a quorum here?
6.
6 of us, okay.
So I would ask for there to be a quorum so that we can have a public hearing, because the public does deserve to be speaking to the people who are advising the board.
So going back a couple slides. So when we have a public hearing, we're considering possibly, I think you talked about presenting different maps at the public
We could.
hearings, meaning it doesn't have to be just like the group got together and said, this is the only one map that we want public comment on. We could actually be presenting to the public different alternatives for them to comment on.
You could.
Okay.
I think you don't want it to be too confusing for the public,
Right.
though. I think the more consensus you can have, the better a public hearing will be. That'll be focused on what you've already vetted.
What does your experience tell us that we that attendance at most of these public meetings?
I don't know. I mean, the IRC, the Independent Redistricting Commission meetings have been, I think we had 20 to 30 at the one we held here in Bisbee, and then I don't know how the Sierra Vista one went. But that is a statewide issue, kind of gets more attention. But this being, if you were to make major changes, you might get people to attend. Not saying you have to do that.
So what
to
you're
get
saying, we
people to
could
attend.
maybe 10 people and we don't want to outnumber the group that's there.
That's fine, if you do.
But
It's a public
technically
hearing.
you have to do it.
Hmm?
Technically you have to do it.
It's a best practice.
When you do one of those meetings, do you have to have the technicalities also the amount of time you spend in that meeting?
Right. So
What
we
is
would,
the time?
well, it would depend on how many speakers you have. We generally give each person 3 minutes to speak.
So would you say an hour is a typical time?
Hour, hour and a half, just depends on if you have like 20 people who want to get up and speak or 50 people get up.
So in other words, if we were to attend, we could expect and need to be there for an hour and a half.
I think that's a fair, it could be less.
All right.
Could have one person show up and then you're done.
How much time would you put in for the presentation? 20 minutes? And then call
Yeah.
the public
Yeah,
for an hour?
because we would present each of the maps that we want them to consider and your remarks, we would summarize as to why those were the ones that were vetted and chosen.
Does anybody, we all have our individual schedules that we have to keep.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm asking these questions is because, we all have to plug this into our schedules.
And I mean, since you bring that up, I'm really uncomfortable. There's so many people here like to say you should, like I have a problem with the date, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
October 22nd, I have a commitment that's been scheduled a long time in advance, and I cannot be there on the 22nd. And like I know everybody has their issues about what, I could do the 15th, that's 2 weeks from today.
Mm-hmm.
But the 22nd is 1 week after that, and I just wonder if there's any way that could be the following week, the week that starts any day that next week.
Maybe, let me suggest something here. Everybody look at these up here. Just raise your hand if you know you can't make it.
On which day? On all the days? Or
Now that says October forecast. You got the 1st. Today's October 1st.
That's right now.
That's today.
So this is this meeting.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
15th and the 22nd would be redistricting advisory commission meetings for us to move forward on any agenda items that we want to brainstorm.
How many people have an issue with the 15th? How many have an issue with the 22nd?
Anyone online?
I'm good. This is Renee.
Okay, so
Okay, so
someone else says the 22nd.
we would have at least a quorum of both of those meetings, right?
We would. That would be to approve the final proposals for the public hearing. It's not your final proposals to go to the board.
Now let's talk about the public meetings.
Mhm.
Different slide, there you go. Now we get to the public meeting, what's that RAC mean?
So I put that there because it's November. This is November calendar. So the public hearings are the 4th, the 8th, and the 16th. The 19th would be the Redistricting Advisory Commission meeting to vote on those final recommendations to the
All
board.
right, Benson Wilcox on the 4th of November. Does anybody have a known conflict?
At 6 p.m. These are all.
At 6 p.m. Does anyone have a known conflict? Okay, none there. How about on the 8th at Bisbee Douglas? Any known conflict? All right, the 16th and Sierra Vista, whatever HC, is that Fort Huachuca or what is it?
That's Huachuca City and Tombstone.
So it's going to be held in probably Sierra
It's a
Vista?
three-way.
Anybody have a conflict there? Okay.
This is Renee again. I
Yes.
do, unfortunately, the 16th and 19th, I will not be here.
16th and 19th, you won't be here.
Yes.
Are there any others? So it looks like we could have a quorum virtually at every meeting. Are you all comfortable moving forward with something like that?
Yes.
And just whoever can't make it can't. I got issues with a couple of those myself, so.
Okay. Yeah, you had your hand up all the time.
Well, no, I'm just saying. But Patrick and I have already discussed this. If I can't make it, Patrick's going to be running the meeting, okay?
Well, I'm just gonna ask, the 23rd, the 22nd is an important meeting when we're supposed to approve the proposals for the public hearing, and there are at least a couple of us who can't make it then. Is there any, I'm just asking the group, if there would be any day the following week when everybody could make it, I would ask that it be moved, and if there's not a day the following week when everybody can make it, then we'll take it from there.
I could push out the 26th for everybody. What is it? That's Tuesday, October 26th.
I'll be gone.
You'll be gone?
I have a Tuesday night too.
Yeah. I'll be
Tuesday
gone.
morning.
Oh, you're talking about the daytime.
Yeah, we're talking about our group meeting, not the public hearing.
This is a stretch for me, so any daytime meeting's a problem. Okay.
You know, I think no matter what we change it to, there are going to be conflicts, and we can't meet everyone's needs. So, in my opinion, we just need to move forward as long as we can be assured of a quorum.
Is there a way to vote in abstention for a committee member?
Tim, would we be able to do like abstention or proxy votes or something like that?
Yeah, could I have a proxy here that day?
We could do a proxy.
So I can have a proxy here that day?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll set that up.
You have to let them know ahead of time who that's going to
Oh,
be.
definitely. That would be very helpful.
Because they have to be sworn in, don't they, as a proxy?
Yes.
You might give another member your
Yeah.
proxy, a member of the commission, your proxy.
So if any of you got that issue,
Oh,
you got
okay.
a choice. You just tell them what you want to vote. Simple.
Okay, so
So-
meaning, but the proxy has to be another member of the commission. It's not like it's not like I'll ask the Bisbee mayor to assign somebody
Right.
else who will sit in for me.
Correct. You would say, Yvonne, would you be my proxy? And then Yvonne could, well, you won't be
So
here
it would
either.
be someone-
but-
Okay.
So it would be somebody who's already part of the committee.
Right, and they would just
Okay.
say, I'm voting by proxy for Elizabeth.
Is there a form that's needed to be
That's
filled
what,
out?
yeah, Tim will help us out with that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Good, good compromise.
It's a long and complicated form, but there is.
Well, that makes sense.
We're already compromising, this is great.
Okay,
Okay, so this will be the next agenda item is to approve this, and so just sit tight on your formal vote until I say thank you.
do we have to go through any kind of a procedure to approve, or just say approval, just ask for yes or no, or a yea
You
or
can
nay?
just, on your agenda, there's the formal language that someone can read off. It's number 4.
Well,
I would make a motion that we approve the timeline of meetings and public hearings as discussed and things shown.
okay, the motion is made by Tim, is it Bobby?
Tim Goldie.
Bowman,
Second.
and second by
Frank Mulliner.
Melina number 1. No. All right.
Better looking.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Will those be sent out as a calendar invite, so we're all?
Yes, Tim will be sending out those to get it all on your calendar.
Um,
Thank you so much, I can move forward.
Okay, now, we're going to move on to the discussion of the Sierra Vista Huachuca issue, which, or Fort Huachuca issue, which has been brought up by you're the vice mayor pro tem. Okay, and I guess Sharon, are you going to lead this, or you want her to lead what she?
I'm gonna start you off, and then Rachel, feel free to
Okay.
jump in.
Very good. Okay.
So Terry's going to bring up, to bring everybody up to speed who wasn't here 2 weeks ago. Mayor Pro Tem of Sierra Vista, Rachel Gray, she raised the concern regarding the community of interest in Sierra Vista where Fort Huachuca and the west end of Sierra Vista are not included in District 1. They are separated out currently into District 3 of the Board of Supervisors. Fort Huachuca has great economic impact on Sierra Vista. The West End is a significant neighborhood in Sierra Vista. The city would like to bring those two areas into District 1 for better representation of the city as a whole. Is that a fair summary? You can feel free to jump in and add. So we worked with the city of Sierra Vista. We gave them population data. They then created their own proposal for your consideration. And I hope everyone can see this okay. Which one? This is, I want to make sure this is, we got a few maps yesterday too, so I want to make sure we're bringing up the one that's most recent.
Of the different maps, which one would you like to start?
I think you want the one that brings in St. David into District 3. Okay, that's this one, isn't it?
It would be the last one that Matt sent over yesterday.
And Terry, do you have printouts of this one?
I do.
So this, we have a blown up map that might be easier for you to see still. What this does is move currently, District 3 comes down and stops about here in Fort Huachuca. This brings it around into southern Sierra Vista. I won't say southern Sierra Vista, I'll say the south of Sierra Vista in the county. What's this?
I think that one's for 6. Sorry.
Have you received this update too?
We just received it yesterday, so no, this is different from what you sent out.
I was looking at the other Sierra Vista.
Sure.
Is this, if I go over this, does that bother anything? Or
No,
is
you're
hearing
That's the
it?
same one? Can I just flip this around?
Does have second.
No, they're not
They're
different.
different.
Oh, they're different?
Anyway.
So is 2 the latest one we sent you?
Yes.
This one I think is the latest one. I apologize. My naming is probably different than what yours is.
Okay.
But this is the one that includes St. David as part of that.
Yes. This one.
Okay, that's the one.
Let's take this one.
And that's cleaner precinct lines, yeah. That was one change to keep the precincts from being split.
So, like I said, it comes around to the southern part of the county, south of Sierra Vista. You moved it. And it brings, it shortens District 1 from going all the way down into the Ramsey Road and the Hereford areas, and District 1 will end at Yaqui in Sierra Vista, which is out of the incorporated areas. It's in the unincorporated area. But it also moves into District 3, an area in East Sierra Vista that's unincorporated, or that's considered unincorporated part of the county. And I believe a neighborhood within Sierra Vista as well.
I mean, on the east
On the east side,
portion,
like where
yeah.
Cooking College, Sierra Vista.
Yes, I can't remember the name of that
There's a-
subdivision right now, but yes.
There's a precinct called Avenida del Sol, I
Mhm.
think, which
This
which
would,
in the current map is part of District 1,
District,
and it's part of Sierra Vista, I believe.
Yes.
yes.
But in this proposal, it's being removed from that Sierra Vista district, District 1.
I believe so.
So it's
Terry,
in fact,
can you-
Sierra Vista is gaining parts of its city, but losing other
So, right, and because it would be impossible to just put all of Sierra Vista and Fort Huachuca together, because that immediately knocks the population numbers off. So the discussion at the city was had that we're willing to give up kind of some of the outer edges of the city to make it work. The main concern is the fort being in the same district as most of Sierra Vista.
From a District 2 perspective, if you can zoom out, Terry, District 2 currently ends around the portal area. This would extend District 2 up into Bowie, San Simon areas and sun sites.
Now you said something about it did something to Benson.
Oh, it kept Benson, this keeps Benson and St. David in one district and Wilcox in one district, District 3.
And when we proposed it to, we looked to make sure that the core of each district remained the same. So, and I call them by their names instead of their numbers, but Ann's district, we wanted to ensure that Douglas and Bisbee and I believe Tombstone were all still within Ann's district, that Peggy still had Wilcox, St. David, and Benson, because those are pretty much the core, just as in Tom Crosby's district, Sierra Vista is very much the core of that district.
Do we have one of these big paper maps of the current?
Yeah, that would be good. They have an overlay of the current. See how it's changed.
Okay, that's my number. You can flip that one.
Sure, you have the prices over the talking point about it.
Yeah, did that?
It's in the agenda, but I just didn't print it.
Oh, okay.
Do we have it so we can put it on the screen, or?
Yeah, you can put it on screen.
Do you have a before and after?
Yes, he's bringing that up, but this is the printed before. Current, and this is the printed proposal. Feel free to get up and walk around and take a look on it, whatever makes you comfortable.
This one's before?
Yes, this is current.
This is before.
In simple terms, what is the annexation of Fort Huachuca spell out for the district? Not Sierra Vista, the district.
I guess
What's the advantage? What is the impetus behind all this?
So the guiding principles that were approved by the Board of Supervisors clearly state that communities of interest should not be separated. And as it currently stands, we are actually, within the county, the only community of interest that is split. The city's position on that is not servicing the citizens of both Fort Huachuca and Sierra Vista fairly. And that's why I did the justification here with the principles is, for example, Fort Huachuca is currently in a district that does not share even a water shed with the core of that district. And those interests are very much aligned with water issues, environmental issues, economic issues, are all very closely tied together. So we contend that we are the very definition of a community of interest in combining those two, and therefore feel that the supervisor that represents that area should be representing both the Fort and Sierra Vista within the same district.
How many of you currently who are in District 2 are here?
I'm here from District 2.
You're
Douglas is
in
District 2.
District 1, aren't you?
District 3.
You're in District 3?
Cornelia is District 2.
And Renee on the
And
two
Renee
on
is District 2.
Okay, how many of you would change in this map?
I have some. Do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Comments from the District 2 perspective. So, I understand Sierra Vista wants to be together as much as possible, but as you said, they can't even. The population is too big. By gaining, so Sierra Vista wants to pick up the fort and the west side here from District 3, from District 3, correct. It means they have to lose this piece of their city because it's too big, so that's part of Sierra Vista, but it would not be part of that Sierra Vista District 1 anymore. So I understand that if Sierra Vista takes this and this from District 3, then District 3 has to grow somewhere else. The choice on this map is to grow District 3 into this part of a lot of which has been District 2 in the past. So in other words, the choice made by this map is not to grow District 3, let's say, in this direction, or, to Tombstone, or I don't remember the name of this district, but it's been to grow District 3 down into here below Sierra Vista. And it's a pretty slender connection that we're making here between this new north of District 3 and south of District 3. And I'm just, it's hard, I don't have all the numbers, I don't know the sizes of all these different areas and what it take, if you put something, what else has to give, but I'm just wondering about that. I would like to see an option where, because District 2 is losing much of this area, Mosen Road and those other areas, and gaining all the way up here to San Simon and Bowie. And, I understand we're trying to preserve the core, but the question is, what is the core? I mean, in a certain way, everything that District 2 has now is sort of important to it. I think that Hereford and Palominas are an important part of District 2 as it now exists. I think that people in the San Pedro Valley, many of them, they send their kids to school in Bisbee, then they send their kids to school in Sierra Vista. I see that there's a connection in this part of District 2, which exists now, to the core of Bisbee Douglas. And so I just would like to see another alternative where instead of growing District 3 down into these parts of District 2 and us losing Mosen Road and all of that, instead of possibly growing District 3 into Tombstone, which I think has a big connection to St. David. I think Tombstone, I suspect that the Tombstone people connect more Benson than they do with Bisbee Douglas in terms of their, cars and all the rest of that. So I would like to see an alternative. If Sierra Vista is that district is going to grow this way, I'd like to, of course, we need to hear from others in District 2 and in District 3 as well. But I would like to see an alternative where District 3 grows this way instead of growing down into this San Pedro, Hereford, Palominas part of.
Let me interrupt you just a second. Let's take a look at this gerrymandering map.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just take a look at this.
Yes.
And now look at this.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Little connection to connect this.
We're talking communities of interest.
Right.
And south of Sierra Vista is very much a part of Sierra Vista. That's where they do most of their shopping if they don't go to. So I think it would be important, and I know population is a big thing here, but if we're talking communities of interest, we do want to keep more of District 1 more contiguous instead of breaking it up, because there are a lot of people in here that are part of Sierra Vista. It is a community of interest.
I mean, this is the current map, this is the proposal, and you're concerned about these parts?
Yes.
That would no longer be part of
Excuse me a
District
second.
1.
Rachel, can you tell us what year Sierra Vista annexed Fort Huachuca?
When? 1970.
And what was the reason at the time?
The reason was, well, I wasn't even born yet, so I wasn't here for the meeting.
What has been their most recent annexation?
I don't.
Sierra Vista, the most recent annexation.
So we are.
Or where have they tried to do it?
So our current annexation policy is more of like an infill policy. So the county enclaves within the west end of town.
Like Frytown?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Which is currently not in our district. Yeah. We are annexing those properties as they change owners or request, or there is a concerted effort to go out and try to get people to annex into the city on that side of town.
How would Sierra Vista's council handle letting just the rest of, up to say, Buffalo Soldier, the west side of town, and leave Fort Huachuca alone?
That would not be ideal, no.
Why?
Well, so we'll use lobbying efforts on the fort as an example. So we have lobbyists that lobby on behalf of missions, and I want to interject here that Fort Huachuca puts $2.9 billion into the economy annually. So we want to make sure that we at least maintain the missions that they have.
How about their taxation? How are they taxed?
So they are not taxed on property necessarily because it's all federally owned property. Their sales tax, depending on what vendor they have on the fort, things like that.
So they currently have to pay Sierra Vista sales tax?
If they are not a DOD business, they do, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, the people like outside of the PX,
right.
You know, like the Papa John's. And
what other financial considerations for Sierra Vista are involved here?
Well, the city itself actually spends quite a bit of money on, again, lobbying efforts, on environmental attorneys. We have a very common interest in fighting things like the Center for Biological Diversity that likes to sue the fort.
Would that change if you?
It would not, but what would make it a lot, we currently would have to have two supervisors, that one representing Sierra Vista, one representing the fort as it stands now. In the past, supervisors that were not even in that district, because quite frankly, the person in the past that's represented the Wilcox and Benson area doesn't have very much of a knowledge about the fort. Understandably so, they tend to be from Wilcox and, well, Wilcox. And so they wouldn't understand it. But we've had supervisors in the past that have stepped over and acted as the representative for the fort. Our position is that having a supervisor for both areas from that area that understands that relationship and the federal policies that go along with having a federal installation in your area would be better representation.
What is the population of West Sierra Vista up to Buffalo Soldier?
That little triangle.
That little area that's definitely a part of the city, not on Fort Huachuca. What would that involve?
Is that Buffalo Soldier precinct?
Now, realizing it on the other side of Buffalo Soldier is also the area around where Equestrian Drive goes out there certain ways. I'm not counting that. I'm talking about the portion between Buffalo Soldier and what does it go over to Carmichael now? Is Carmichael the breaking point, or where?
So currently we're looking at like no change. This is what our districts are currently. So here's the separation. So Supervisor 1 is part of Fort Huachuca, has no change, but also Supervisor 3 is also part of Fort Huachuca,
right?
No change.
What about that little,
Do you know the
that little
population?
triangle in there? How many people
That
are
little
in that?
triangle,
Yeah.
how about your cursor?
Let's be very clear that Fort Huachuca there, that's electronic proving ground. No one lives there
Yeah.
at all. That's just across the highway.
Or where your cursor is.
That's
What's
where they
the-
test electronic.
Take the obvious spot sticking out there. It's that triangle in there.
So you're
Fort
saying
Huachuca is. How
To
many
run that
people are
red
in that
line
category?
out is what you're saying.
If we know how many people are in that category, what effect would that change for the rest of the county?
Is that the Buffalo Soldier precinct? Is that what it's called? Or-
No.
What's that precinct called?
I think it's Soldier Creek, Elizabeth.
What's that?
I think it's Soldier.
It is
Soldier
Soldier
Creek.
Creek.
Soldier Creek, okay.
Were any maps drawn of, because I understand the whole representation of the board and all that, because like it's, you have Wilcox, you have Benson, you have Bowie, San Simone, we're all facing different things than like Sierra Vista and the Fort. But what you were talking about with the watershed and all that, you're still going to have that problem here. You're still trying to understand 4 different water problems from District 3. So was any work done trying to come down? Because when we were talking about this last time was like, you go clockwise.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, Matt, originally we did that. The reason is, also the reason it kind of came out to be like this is Matt McLaughlin, who was our community development director, was trying to not split precincts, but also was trying to make sure that the core of the group kind of stayed together.
This was the first proposal.
This was, and this one,
This is the one that we sent to you all.
I really feel like District 3 right now, I think personally, because I live up in that area, I consider Bowie and San Simone part of my community.
Yes.
right.
And that's what I was.
And if we were going to give up the population over in Fort to balance it, if you had to go down and take in Portal, which would come out of your area, and maybe give you a little bit more over here on the bottom, but I would like to see District 3 stay more in the northern portion of the county. I mean, I feel like
Here,
that's,
like this.
yeah,
Well, that, but it's
that's
gonna,
the way
and I don't know how much
community feels
Paradise
more
and
Right.
rural area like
How many
relate with
population?
Douglas and all that. I don't know. I work in the area. I work for Valley Military, so I cover. I work all over here and then even down into Elfrida and McNeil. But the feeling, I think down here is kind of where it starts to split. Families
a lot
and
of Portal,
a lot of the
northern part, they go into Douglas to get everything that.
yeah, because they have that highway right here. It's a dirt road going up that way.
So it's very important for us to hear that. I couldn't by open meeting law call and poll every one of you
Well,
on what you wanted
sure,
to see. So we just had to do the best we could to
Yeah.
present and then
Yeah.
hear the discussion because we.
But there's a lot of companies, especially farming companies that do business in, they have operations in Bowie and San Simone. They have also operations in Wilcox and in the Benson area. So it really,
Right.
from
And that,
my standpoint, that's more of a community right now
Yeah.
in their mind.
well,
So
and
I think the
that's-
voters would feel more
Right.
comfortable that they didn't get cut out and sent into a different district.
And you're actually making my point farming is because
Okay.
I would not be able to tell you that because I don't live in this area. I know
Yeah.
nothing about the northern part of
Let me
Cochise
ask you
County.
this, Rachel. What would, from the city's point of view, you were speaking of sort of political issues when you said lobbying.
Well, when I meant advocacy, but lobbying
advocacy.
advocacy.
How would your advocacy, how would it increase with Fort Huachuca if that became part of District 1?
It would help us to have a supervisor representing the fort and Sierra Vista that is from the area, knows the area, knows the fort, knows the needs, and as far as economic and environmental, it would be better representation.
Is there an issue at odds right now that you're dealing with?
Not that I'm aware of, other than, we don't.
Oh, other than it looks pretty on a map, do we have any other really good reasons to make a change?
I would say yes, sir, we do, and I put those in the agenda with the proposal. I mean, I actually had quite a bit more information that I wanted to pare it down for you guys, but I even went through and looked at all the different industries for the communities in each district, looked at the number of jobs per industry, and as we already know, Sierra Vista, Fort Huachuca looks very different than Wilcox and Benson as far as that's concerned. I did not send that over because it was a lot of detail, and I was trying to keep it very high level.
Do we have the rest of your proposal here someplace? Is this all of it?
No.
The talking points?
You mean the talking
talking
there was
We'll bring
I think I
Just a question. How many years has this boundary been in place?
So you have to pick up.
The current years.
10 years.
Since the last.
And before that, what was it like before that? Was it still separated?
My
I
understanding
think
was, it wasn't all of Sierra Vista, but it was Price Township and Fort Huachuca. It was still in District 3 more than 10 years ago, going back 20 years. Before that was before my time.
Question, what are the differences in population? What population are we trying to work with Sierra Vista, Fort Huachuca?
He's working on that
Do you
right
have
now.
the population numbers of what that would be?
Yes, ma'am. The way that it's proposed, it would be 43.6 in that district, right around 43,600, I
And
think.
that is what we're shooting.
43.9, I think is the limit.
What does the add in?
About 7,000.
If we
And
kept
if
part
that
of
move
the
was
south
made,
end
what
of
would it
Sierra
create for the
Vista,
rest of the county?
how much population
Is there,
is that?
have you ever
at?
done that?
So we do have the numbers on the bottom.
It goes over the amount. That's why we had to lose some places, because there was just no way to put all of it, unfortunately.
I'm just wondering if we kept some of this down here, and worked with some of this area, population probably doesn't work out that well because it's denser up here than it is here. But if we look
And that's what
maybe
this
this area,
See,
I
that's
don't
an
know.
entrance.
I haven't run any numbers, this is my first
I don't think
meeting.
she got signed.
But I'm just wondering if
But I
we
think for the rest of the
this
city,
area
she certainly does.
compact and cohesive
So-
with what it is now, because we do have the community of interest.
And we don't disagree that it would be ideal, it's just with the numbers, we just couldn't make it work.
But their economy relates more.
Yeah, so that's gonna make a major.
Well, you're talking border, you're talking, now, because the main thing we have to do is stay within that population. So there's gonna have to be give and take. So you have to go, okay, if you have to give and take, you have to look at, okay, who do they relate, who does this area relate to more? Of course, Sierra Vista, but they don't relate to Wilcox, they don't relate up here. They relate better to here on the south border if you have to give up stuff to meet the numbers. So that's where District 2 has to come in to gain the numbers to get within the range we need to be. District 3 has to gain numbers coming down, either kind of come down here a little further than they were before. This should stay, I would almost say stay here because they come down here and show
And that's why, and that's why at the last
Marty?
meeting, I stated the fact that.
Are you there?
By changing some of these, you're going
Marty,
to take
minute?
away the northern part of our territory.
Well, right now,
May
yeah,
not hear you.
right now District 2 is here and not so much to the north.
Yeah.
And, if District 3 has to grow, if it has to grow, I mean, if it has to grow, I see it growing more here.
In the middle,
than in
and I would say, and someone correct me if wrong, but like I would agree that Tombstone probably goes more to Benson. Even like this area, Elfrida to me is kind of the split where they kind of go up to Wilcox area. They also go down to Douglas. Gleason area, Sunazona. Like you talk to these people, They're Wilcox. They're from
But
Wilcox.
they're already in that.
And we also have the basin that we all feed from. That's a big issue right now.
Right.
And that's our argument too, because you are having those issues, which are totally different than the environmental and water issues that we have in the Sierra Vista subwatershed. Again, making the point is that it makes sense
But
now.
the population thing is the main, for that one-to-one law, that's what we gotta remember to keep in mind.
And it's possible that what we can do is even just bring in, Sierra Vista I think would be okay even if we just brought in some of the forts, not the empty electronic proving ground that has no bearing whatsoever on anything other than they just test stuff out there. But a portion of the fort so that with the west end, so that it is contiguous and compact through here. But it's very difficult to do it with the numbers.
Yeah.
So,
because we are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Dense, thank you.
So
we're not dense, but we're,
Yeah, the population.
Is that a quote?
Population is
Is that a quote?
Don't put that charge, you're not going to quote that.
Let's kind of bring this, the issues which we haven't solved. There's 7,000, roughly 7,000 people in that little triangle of West Sierra Vista, which would be bordering Buffalo Soldier Trail. And I was asking Terry to what if that went into District 1, then what would it do to the rest of the county? But that means we'd have to pick up 7,000 people out here in a very low density area,
and that's
which is going to take an awful lot of geography.
And that's just for the triangle, that's not even including the fourth.
What's the population of Tombstone?
Of that whole precinct?
Tombstone, what is it, 3,000 or 4,000?
Is it that much?
Is it 2,500 maybe? I don't know, it's not. Let's put it this way, that the 7,000 people on the west side of Sierra Vista would be bigger than almost every other little town in the county. You see? So it would have a major effect. And I guess the biggest thing, and she's printing off your your key points for all of us to have, which I think would be helpful. The reasons why this would work for you. So, and does anyone here feel like that they're capable of saying yay or nay on this right now? Okay. Okay, you'd like to see the talking point. Then are we appropriate here in delaying a decision on this until the next meeting?
Well, the next agenda item after the discussion is to give direction to staff regarding the proposals you have in front of you, whether you want to move forward with these to a public hearing or if you don't. So any other direction we can also take, but specifically those, are these still on the table?
So the next meeting would be a public meeting?
No, it would just be moved. They would just
move everything back.
They would just be collected and put to the public hearing.
I don't feel like we're at a decision point on this subject. How many
I agree.
comments?
I agree
Comments.
on that point.
What would help you come
What's
to
going to change their mind?
Well, they're printing off the talking points. We didn't have the talking points that Sierra Vista put together.
They were on the agenda. They were
So they were on the agenda?
Yeah, they were there.
So it's,
Because
I feel like you kind of had your mind made up in the first meeting because of the
well,
comments that
now
you
my
made.
mind is really made up because I thought our purpose was to spread the boundaries in regards to population. And all we're talking about is the impact economically.
Well,
And
because
all we're
communities
talking
of
about.
interest are a defining principle that are required to be looked at. So if you look at all of the principles that the Board of Supervisors has mandated that need to be looked at, population absolutely is important and must be considered, but also communities of interest must be considered.
But we're
And
still
we're
splitting up the
ignoring that
community of
part.
interest on that map anyway.
Okay.
Well,
And it's actually,
let me-
this is not
let's-
what-
And also, let's,
May I have your
that's
attention,
why
please?
gerrymander.
And that was not the
I
intent.
know
No,
that's
no,
not
no,
it.
that was not the intent.
May-
That's
may
not
I
what
have
we're
your
thinking
attention,
of.
please?
Yes.
We could carry on for quite some time. Since everyone's had an opportunity to read the points on the agenda, and I think I went through them, I must have gone through them much too fast. Since everyone has had those in their possession, and you've come to this meeting, you've seen the presentation here, how many need more information available at this point in order to make a decision about this proposal?
This particular proposal, this new
Yeah.
This
map.
proposal.
Well, the proposal that was,
This one right here.
Yes, let's,
that's the proposal from Sierra Vista right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
To me, there's kind of two questions here which are definitely interrelated. One is whether to make this change to District 1 to take in the west side here and the fourth. But the other is, even if that's going to happen, are there other alternatives for how to make that happen in terms of the impact on the other?
Tilly would be a good one to
Districts,
choose on that.
But you know, I hear what Yvonne is saying. I mean, what Yvonne is saying in a way is that these things are also part of the Sierra Vista community of interest. And so even though there's an argument here that,
Discussion, not argument.
sorry, I'm an arguer, sorry. Even though there's a proposal here that the important community of interest is to bring in is the west side and the fourth,
Right.
you're making the point that other communities, other things that are sort of part of the Sierra Vista community of interest are being lost at the same time, including even
Exactly.
part of the city.
Exactly.
Which we had to prioritize.
Right, so-
That, I mean, if we had our way, I mean, if the world were exactly the way we wanted it, we would have the fort, and all of
And all of
Sierra
that,
Vista
right.
into the same district. Unfortunately, the numbers don't add up. Most of the county, with the exception of Benson and Sierra Vista, lost population. And
Yeah.
so it makes that even more difficult. We still contend that, and let me just put it in very plain words, it feels like with the way that things stand now, Sierra Vista gets punished because we are bigger, we are more dense, we are more populated, so we just it's like splitting the baby down the middle, which is what's happening. We tried very hard not to do that to anyone else in the community, and that's why we wanted to bring the maps, because as I said, I don't ever go in this area. I have no idea what's even there. I'm sorry too. So it is, I think, good to hear the rest of the discussion and how it might look so that everyone can have at least a little bit of representation that makes sense for their area, and that we're not just saying, well, you guys are just going to get split. We don't care about your community of interest. We don't care about anything other than we're just going to split you down the middle and you'll live with it, which is what we've been doing.
Okay, Rachel, if I can, is there any reason why we can't end the discussion on this? Okay, then I assume we're in a position to make a decision.
or give direction.
Or give direction. And I don't know the protocol of whether this is somebody makes a motion, or how should we handle
Should
that?
we do it in vote? It's not posted.
I think we're next item. It just says discussion direction.
Just
Map.
Direction, just that.
I don't think we can vote on it.
I was trying to get a motion.
So the direction you can give us, if you want, I'm not being too overstepping myself here. The direction you can give us is to move the Sierra Vista proposal number
Two.
to a public hearing. Or you can give us direction to not move it to a public hearing.
Okay, so we do that through a motion, or how?
Well, we don't have it listed as a motion, so I'm thinking it's just it's direction.
All right, then I'm going to ask for a yea or nay approval or disapproval of moving this to a public meeting. Is that fair enough?
We're moving Sierra's proposal 2 to a public meeting.
In other words, we're gonna say we recommend this.
Well,
I agree. It's problematic the way the agenda's.
Okay. Yeah.
It sounds like
See, I'm
you're
used to Robert's
asking for
Rules of Order.
consensus.
This is Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
Where, this is the no change right here. This is where it exists right now.
Correct.
Okay? Your proposal is this one here. It's not this one.
Correct.
Okay, so let's take this out of the picture. So now we've got staying the way it is, going to this proposal. This would be, if we're saying, yes, we want to move on or send to a public meeting, we're voting for this one. If you're saying, no, we don't want to move to a public meeting, we're voting for it as is. Okay?
Or can we, Sharon, because from the discussion, a consensus to say that we would like to see Sierra Vista and the Fort stay in one district, but we also want to see District 3
Yeah.
maintain or retain more of the northern part of the county. And
I think we've already proven through the numbers that can't happen.
Right now, we're balanced. We can stay exactly where we are
No.
and just make some minor changes around.
Well,
We haven't considered that.
One thing you haven't considered is the lower left-hand corner of that map. You're making a major change down there. Okay?
I think that's.
Now, I don't think there's anyone else in that district except me. I'm not sure if there's anyone there that's here. That's a major change for that district down there.
It is. I know.
And that's a heavily populated area. Or much more heavily populated.
are you talking about her?
Yes, I'm talking about right down there.
Yeah.
In the
If you
lower
keep
left-hand
saying the
corner.
lower left corner, that
Well,
Down here,
Yes.
this is west of the Huachuca area.
Well,
This is like Parker.
come in
Parker.
toward, yeah, but come off of Coronado Memorial on up to Palmer.
You're talking about Hereford.
What you're doing is that's an area that's getting the major change to it.
Correct, this area.
Okay, and there's a lot of people involved in that. That's the reason why it wound up on this map that way. So it's not. So what we have to do is you have to vote in your own interest in your own district. In other words, you're representing the people in your district, and if you think this is going to be effectively positive for your district, then you want to vote for the change. If you feel it's not going to be positive for the district, you would vote to stay the way it is. So, because you've got different people of different interests here.
But I believe, Mr. Chair, that there is other potential things to look at.
Okay, what's the other thing?
So possibly looking at directing staff to maybe look at, okay, if we wanted to talk about communities of interest and add in the Fort to Sierra Vista, what are some other potential maybe staff recommendations of, hey, you could add this into District 3, District 2 could go here, because they have the population numbers. I don't have the population numbers right in front of me, so I don't know if that's something that we have them.
I didn't want to muddy the
deep dive
waters
into.
because I wanted it to give you Sierra Vista's proposal to
Okay.
discuss it. Terry and I played around with it. It's rough. Terry, is there one that you like better than the other one that talks about what they
Like adding Tombstone, Elfrida, McNeil to District 2, does that balance anything? District 3, I'm sorry? Does that balance?
in the end,
Or is it still too small?
I don't want to take sides, so please just bear with me.
Hey, let's not try to talk over, let's let Sharon make her presentation.
So when Terry and I played with it a little bit to try to bring Sunny Zona, Bowie, San Simone area back into District 3. Ultimately, you do have to do something with Sierra Vista because of the population numbers. It still isn't enough.
Okay.
So Terry, could you bring that, not to your second one, I think the first one? Well,
I don't remember which one was the better.
I know, I'm like, I didn't really. They both, nothing's perfect. Even the current one's not perfect, right? So.
And I don't think any of it will ever be perfect.
Yeah.
But again,
While he's bringing the numbers up, has anybody ever been a fan of professional football? Well,
It's a different.
there was a player by the name of Lyle Alzado who used to play for the Oakland Raiders, and he was very successful and he was a great defensive player.
Yeah, I like that.
And they asked him why he was so good at it. He says, well, I kept throwing people out of the pile until I found the man with the ball. And that's essentially what we're doing here.
Let's show them that one. Okay, so we're gonna bring one up. Again, I didn't wanna do anything to undermine Rachel's situation.
And I just want to be very clear, we're not married to any one map. What we're very concerned about is splitting a city right down the middle, which is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Currently.
So here's another option. I don't even know what to call it, staff option one, I don't know. We didn't name it even. So it does, does that go all the way to the north?
I'm gonna have to go in a hard
See, we didn't print it out.
That's the same one that you got on the left there, isn't it?
No. So this brings Sunny Zona, it moves over here into the blue. But it does, bring District 2 over into southern portion of the Sierra
Zoom
Vista.
into the southern area.
And it is a small bit of District 3 on the east end of the Sierra Vista area as well.
And Mayor Gray, when we.
You just call me Rachel.
When we were playing around, it was not based on the most recent version that you had provided us, that included like those portions outside of the city, of the south side.
Right. Again, he redid the map because he saw the slide, he was looking at the agenda and saw the slide on the precinct. And so he was doing his best to not to mess up the precinct, so.
I like what he did.
Okay, you're up Ramsey Canyon. Okay, see, I'm down
Just to
here,
show the differences
right
between.
down here. And so you're coming off of 92 here.
This
So
is 92, this is 92.
Or this 92, you're coming up this way. You're coming up.
I think that's.
So, yeah, so that would change.
I think we did that.
Do we have the other map yet?
This is just a concept of another version of the difference.
Okay, but that doesn't show the whole county, does it?
No, I just zeroed in on the corner. There it is.
Okay, so that little piece coming down between the green and the orange, that blue down in there, it looks like another gerrymander, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's that same thing we're trying to extend three around Sierra Vista to grab places that are south of Sierra Vista. Which I understand the numbers. Yeah, I understand the numbers.
That's much of an option.
Much better if you want to stand up.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait till you come back.
It makes a big impact all over the district.
Is this the current Terry, or is this what you guys came up with?
This was us playing.
Okay. I actually think it looks pretty.
We were trying to give you Fort Huachuca and
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yep, I like it.
Thank you. Tombstone on the west side?
So, yeah,
Keep
that's
Tombstone as
not
part of
gerrymandering.
District 2.
Yeah.
So Tombstone is just.
It's argued that, yeah, it's following geographical lines, which is what another principle is.
And then you kind of give maybe down that lower corner, back to District 1, like the Yvonne's pocket spot. I don't know what that population is like.
Tombstone kind of goes with Bisbee or Benson. I would say it's been in the interest, because they're like right in the center.
I think it's a good argument.
I'd like to see that also with Tombstone into District 3. Does that mean that District 3 doesn't have to come down so far below Sierra Vista?
Is it possible when you are doing these proposed maps?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some little bit of a dog leg down there, but
In the
hey,
map also, so that we know about the population.
One of the things
In a way, it depends on how you
Reduce out the population or left-hand
they give us a
corner.
population of the
Oh,
census.
sorry, we're talking
all
over
much
one
more
another, and that's
connected
not
here.
appropriate. We keep doing that, and I know that people who are listening in are probably pulling their hair out. Sorry, it's just
So
the nature of the discussion.
Mr. Hatfield, and then we're just making a point that the one that that Terry has come up with looks fine as far as they think they're concerned. And again, I just want to be very clear, is that we don't have a position on the other two districts because we are not part of those other two districts and not familiar with them. So any of them look fine to us because we've got Fort Huachuca and the city together. So it really is a discussion of the other two districts and how they are comfortable and what you're comfortable with, providing that we stay together.
We're not going to do a voice vote on this. I want each person to vote because I think we're not going to have a clear up or down on this.
Okay.
And so I'd like each person to declare how they feel about it, whether we should advance this to a public meeting or not.
And I want to be clear what it is you're advancing to the public meeting.
Well, we're going to have two proposals.
Okay.
There's one is the first proposal, which Sierra Vista came up with. The second is what the staff came up with.
I think the city would be fine to just use staff's proposal
Okay, then.
and not even
Is there anyone else here from Sierra Vista that would, or is Rachel the only representative here?
I'm from District 1 also.
You're from District 1,
Yes, not from the city itself.
but you're from District 1. How do you
Yes.
feel about the city's proposal versus the one the staff came up with?
I agree with Rachel as far as the need to incorporate Fort Huachuca in the same district and the same supervisor in the same district. I am concerned about the southern part of the district now because it is so closely tied to Sierra Vista. And so I want to look at that some more.
Okay. Other comments? Any comments specifically about your own district, how it would affect the district you're in right now? Because that's who we're representing. We were all appointed by one of the county supervisors. So therefore, they were counted. That's who we are representing at this point.
Go ahead. I think it's a little confusing. I don't even know which map we're talking about because she talks about one map and she talks about another map. And then you say, now we need to vote. It's like on what?
I'm going to clarify that.
Okay.
What I want to do though is let's talk about the way we vote. You got to think about where you are right now.
Well,
and what and I'm going to point out what changes because I'm going to go around and ask each one of you.
Well,
Okay, hold on.
Can I try to help? What we could do is get a printout of this, have it for the next meeting, let you discuss it again, and then, and when I say this, I mean the staff proposal. Let you discuss it at the next meeting, and then you can decide to take that to a public hearing or not.
That has to be step 2. Step 1 has to be, how do we treat the proposal from Sierra Vista? First of all, she's already withdrawn it, but the point is, we either got to go up or down on that first before we consider the one from the staff.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I haven't withdrawn the proposal.
Okay, do you want to leave it up or down?
No, the proposal from the city is simply, can we find a way to keep the fort and Sierra Vista together? As far as the maps and all that is concerned, we came up with a map simply to try to make population work, but that is not the focus. The focus is as a principle or as a abstract, I guess, concept at this point, can we keep Sierra Vista and put Fort Huachuca and Sierra Vista in the same district?
Okay. Now the second question, Sharon, your staff thing, is that a staff recommendation or only a staff representation of what you found?
It was a staff creation.
And would you be proposing that as a recommendation or not?
No.
It's not proposed as a recommendation.
I don't make recommendations.
Okay, so we're not getting any recommendation. We're just doing a what if.
Suggestions. They're just suggesting your options.
What?
I think they're just suggesting options.
Okay.
Based on discussion that we've heard, we can create something. And that's what that kind of represents. So.
See, my opinion is that looks very gerrymandered to me. And regardless of who falls where, that's very gerrymandered.
Bringing that.
And
Why can't we just make a proposal that they furnish us with an alternative choices?
well, we do. We have those in front of us. We have the current situation the way it is. We have a proposal here from Sierra Vista, and we have a potential option from the staff. Okay? Now, the question is, we got to go with one or the other, or is there another option? Or have you guys just about exhausted all those? And
So did you throw this one out?
I haven't thrown anything out yet.
I
The
know,
only one I
that's
threw out was their second.
yeah, I know it's a curve, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, then are we throwing that out, like, you're not considering it?
No, that's laying over there. That was a second proposal they made.
Team, sorry, excuse
This
me.
was the primary proposal. from
Somebody's
Sierra
trying to say.
Yes. Yes?
Yeah, I apologize. Sorry, it's Renee. I apologize. I gotta log off and go to another meeting. Is there anything you need from me before I go?
Sharon, is there anything? We're pretty close to the end, aren't we?
We are pretty close to the end. If you just had any comments you wanted to share about this map situation. You can
No, I don't. I'll give it to Mr. Molina. I'll let him take over for me.
All right, thank you.
My younger version of me.
Okay, what we're trying to do is come up with some kind of a consensus here, okay?
So,
I mean, we all have
We're good, thank
ideas. Is there any idea that
Thank you.
is new, or are we going to be repeating
You were
ourselves?
asking if there are other options, and I
So if you do this,
second Tim's suggestion. I mean, if we're gonna carry this across to another meeting, to see an option where Tombstone comes into District 3 and see what changes that means for District 2, but I would say like,
This is 60,000.
From number 2, I don't think we want to lose Tombstone.
okay,
Let's keep it going.
that's a solid point. You consider it,
Yeah, we consider it a part of
Is everybody here from
district.
Tombstone?
A lot of people more relate to the stuff we have. I mean, they relate to the cost of water and the problems with water just as much as we do outside of Douglas, because, I just sank another well for one of my fields, and that's $30,000 right there. People are experiencing the same thing. You take them away, and again, we're relating to different problems in different districts. And so I'm pretty much for the fact that we're going to. Right now, I'd like clarification on Cheryl's question: is which map are we talking about?
Well, I'm going to.
That's why I asked: are we throwing this one out completely?
no,
That's the existing.
Okay.
this is status quo.
If we look at this, you'll see at the bottom it says no change. That's exactly where we are now.
Okay.
Okay, so that's always an option.
That's
That's
option
no
one.
change. That's option one. That's no change. This option is Sierra Vista made two options. One of them we took out over here. Nobody seemed to care for it. This is the option from Sierra Vista.
That's option 2.
That's option 2. You okay with that?
Right, so what do we go?
Okay. The third option would be not a recommendation, but a potential, which is what they brought up here. It'd be better if you showed the whole county on that rather than just the portion, because how it affects the whole county. So we've got apples for apples here. Okay, all right, now.
It is very close.
Now, yeah, it's not very different than this one.
Other than the
The difference is this little section right down through here winds up with District 1, and this whole section here winds up over here. So it has a big effect on these people and these people because they wind up in different districts.
And for people online, he was pointing to the south of Sierra Vista and east.
So if you're representing somebody in either the area down here or the area here on the east side of Sierra Vista, then you got to understand you're going to be going through a change. You'll have a different county supervisor if this is the one they would vote for. Okay? And the question, do you feel comfortable to make that change for as a representative of your district? Not your own opinion, but your district.
Do you feel comfortable forwarding it to the public?
Yeah. In other words, if you're going to forward this to a public meeting, do you think the people in your district would like this change, or do you think the people in your district would not like this change?
Speaking from my district, I'm going to stick with no change.
Okay. Now, so I'd like to go around with each one of you. There's three options. There's no change. There's Sierra Vista's recommended change. And there is the staff's potential change not recommended.
No recommendation one way or the other.
No recommendation. Yeah, not recommended one way or the other, just there.
And I think to clarify, it's no recommendation, but based on a discussion.
Based on the discussion, it's the closest we think.
Okay. So 1, no change. 2, Sierra Vista's change. 3, the staff sheet that's appearing on that screen. And just think about it for a moment. I'm going to come around, and would somebody tabulate this, please? Just tabulate the numbers and just give me a 1, 2, or a 3. That's all you got to do.
May I ask, is this going to be for going to public hearing or for like discussing? Because we don't have an action item to go to public hearing yet. It's discussion and direction to staff of what to do for the next meeting.
All right, Sharon, do you think we need to go to the next meeting on this?
We can put it to a vote at the next meeting to go to public hearing. But which one do you want me to put?
Okay, so then we're not making a decision to go to public meeting. We're making a decision whether we take this to the next meeting or not.
To vote on whether to go to a public meeting.
Okay, all right. You all comfortable with that?
Wait, we're making a decision.
Well, let me repeat it again. 1, no change. 2, Sierra Vista's recommendation. 3, staff creation. And we're only deciding to take it to the next meeting.
Our next meeting.
Our next meeting, not the public meeting. Our next meeting. You okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Is that clear to everybody? Anybody doesn't feel clear with that? And do we have somebody online yet to vote, or are they gone?
Cornelia has, I don't know, is Cornelia still on? Looks like.
Okay, your name doesn't necessarily be recorded. We're just gonna go around to make sure how many recommendations we have.
But
okay?
Excuse me, Marty Minnick is on.
What?
Marty Minnick from Bowie is on.
Okay, Marty, do you understand what we're doing here?
Maybe not.
We've been trying to reach him. We haven't.
Okay. All right. Let's start right now. 1, 2, or 3.
1.
3. 1.
3.
1.
3.
3.
1.
Tied.
Okay. How many?
Tied exactly.
Tied.
We're tied.
Well, if we're tied, what?
4-4.
If we're tied, I'd like to ask what I sort of wanted to ask anyway. I'm still kind of interested in 3. It's just that I want to be able to see it on paper. I want it emailed to us. I can look at it more carefully. Because, maybe then we could break the tie. But just looking at it like here, I know things are being removed from District 2, but it's very hard for me to tell, looking at the screen, what's being removed.
No, I think it's important for everybody to feel they have all the information in front of them.
Okay. Well, at least we have eliminated number 2. Is that? Would you say that's eliminated? It's a tie between 1 and 3. Okay. Well, we can move forward with that then to the next meeting.
We will put those on the agenda for the next meeting for you to vote on which one to send to public.
Okay. Have we left anything out yet? We're down to director to staff regarding the Sierra Vista. That's what you've done here. Looks to me like we're done. Have we finished? Of course, food gets done, we're getting finished, okay?
We had another proposal, that's the number 8, the minor changes, but we can move that to another meeting.
I think we've already been through enough this morning. What do you think? We're almost.
I think you guys are pretty
Okay. Okay, we're gonna, we have a.
Sorry, everybody.
Hey, please, folks, hey, this sounds like a junior high meeting. Okay, we've got a proposal here, table number 8. Second? Okay, we'll do that, and I think that clears it up. With that, the meeting is adjourned. We got a vote for what?
To table.
All in favor?
Do we have to vote for that?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of tabling number 8?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
I make a motion.
the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks.